At 78, Sally Field names the 7 actors she wanted to date the most. Sally Field captured America's heart as the Flying Nun and won our respect with 2 Academy Awards. Now at 78 years old, Sally Field remains one of Hollywood's most beloved treasures. With a career spanning more than 6 decades, she's worked alongside some of film history's most desirable leading men. But in a rare, candid, reflective moment, Sally has revealed what her fans have always wanted to know: the 7 Hollywood heartthrobs she most wanted to date. These are not just any actors. They're the men who defined masculinity for an entire generation, whose posters adorned bedroom walls, and whose smoldering gazes made audiences weak at the knees. From passionate real-life romances to secret crushes that never materialized, Sally's list gives us a fascinating glimpse into the heart of a woman who has always been much more than just the girl next door. What makes an actor irresistible? Is it those piercing eyes that seem to look right through the camera? That distinctive voice that sends shivers down your spine? Or perhaps it's that ineffable star quality, the kind you can't manufacture or fake. Today, we're going to explore the 7 men who made Sally Field's heart race the fastest throughout her legendary career. Tales of steamy on-screen chemistry that spilled into real life and admiring glances from across crowded award ceremonies will make you see one of America's sweethearts and the men she admired in a whole new light. So settle in as we count down the 7 Hollywood leading men who captured the imagination of one of our most enduring stars. And trust me, number 1 on this list is going to make you say, "I can't believe they never got together." But first, let's start with the man who actually did win Sally's heart, at least for a time. Number 7, Burt Reynolds, the real-life romance that burned too bright. If you were alive in the late 1970s, you couldn't miss them. Sally Field and Burt Reynolds, Hollywood's golden couple, had it all. The rugged machismo of Reynolds, with his trademark mustache and cocky laugh, seemed perfectly complemented by the girl-next-door charm and undeniable talent of Field. But their relationship was far more complicated and ultimately more heartbreaking than many fans ever realized. Their romance began on the set of Smokey and the Bandit in 1977. Reynolds was already a massive box office draw, the quintessential alpha male of American cinema who could fill theaters with just his name on the marquee. Field, meanwhile, was fighting to shed her wholesome image from roles like Gidget and the Flying Nun. The attraction between them was immediate and electric. There was something about him, Sally once told interviewer Diane Sawyer. The camera absolutely loved him, and so did I. There was this chemistry that you couldn't deny. This spark that lit up the moment he walked into a room. The two were inseparable for nearly 5 years, starring together in 4 films that showcased their undeniable chemistry: Smokey and the Bandit, Smokey and the Bandit 2, The End, and Hooper. This fact of their real-life relationship only served to enhance their performances and made audiences feel they were witnessing something quite real. But beneath the surface, troubles brewed. Reynolds was at the height of his fame and struggled with the pressures of stardom. He had turned to prescription painkillers after a jaw injury. His jealousy and controlling behavior began to suffocate Field, who was coming into her own as a serious dramatic actress. Things came to a head just as Sally's career was reaching new heights. In 1979, she won her first Oscar for Norma Ray, a performance which established her as one of Hollywood's finest actresses. Reynolds was said to have felt threatened rather than proud of her success. The higher she rose, the more their relationship fell apart. Many years later, Reynolds was to refer to Field as the love of my life in his 2015 memoirs, deeply regretting losing her. Sally was much more reserved. She would acknowledge the passion that lived between them, even as she realized it was toxic. "We had a real relationship, not a Hollywood romance," she wrote in her memoir in pieces. "It was complex and not without its troubles, but it was very real." Their story isn't just a Hollywood romance. It is a cautionary tale about how passion alone isn't enough to sustain love. At the same time, it speaks to the lasting impact certain people can have on our lives, even long after the relationship has ended. To Sally Field, Burt Reynolds represented one of the most pivotal periods in her personal story. A love that burned too bright to last, yet too significant to ever forget. 6. Paul Newman, the unattainable blue-eyed dream. Some crushes are destined to stay forever out of reach, shining stars that we can only admire from afar. For Sally Field, Paul Newman was that kind of untouchable object of desire. With those piercing blue eyes, chiseled features, and effortless cool, Newman wasn't just a movie star. He was a cultural icon whose appeal spanned decades. Paul Newman was the kind of actor who made everyone around him better. Sally once said at a Hollywood tribute. And those eyes, well, they weren't just blue. They were truthful. When he looked at you, even on screen, you felt like he was really seeing you. Even though they never worked on a film together, Sally and Paul met several times at different award shows, benefits, and industry functions. The admiration was mutual, and Newman reportedly expressed great praise for Field's performances in Norma Rae and Places in the Heart. What made Newman particularly appealing wasn't just his physical beauty, but the depth and complexity he brought to his roles. From Cool Hand Luke to The Verdict, he portrayed men with moral ambiguity and inner conflict, qualities that resonated with Field's own approach to acting. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Newman's off-screen persona matched his on-screen appeal. His 50-year marriage to Joanne Woodward became Hollywood's gold standard for commitment, proving that lasting love was possible even amid the temptations of fame. His philanthropy through Newman's own further reflected his integrity and compassion, qualities Sally admired deeply. I think what made Paul so special wasn't just how he looked, she told TCM in an interview. It was who he was, his integrity, his commitment to his craft and his causes. That's what made him truly sexy. Among the many who paid tribute when Newman died in 2008 was Field, who remembered, there was no one quite like him. He set the standard not just for how to be a movie star, but how to be a good human being. 5. Harrison Ford, the reluctant sex symbol. Harrison Ford and Sally Field never shared the screen, but that didn't stop her from joining the millions who fell under the spell of Han Solo and Indiana Jones. Ford represented a new kind of leading man, rugged but vulnerable, heroic yet flawed, and Sally wasn't immune to his charms. Harrison Ford is ridiculously hot, she once admitted in a rapid-fire interview with Andy Cohen. The audience erupted in laughter, and Sally's knowing smile said it all. What likely made Ford appealing to someone like Field was his very down-to-earth approach to fame. Like Sally, he cares most about the craft, not celebrity. Both came up through Hollywood in the same era. Ford famously worked as a carpenter before Star Wars catapulted him to stardom in 1977. The year Field was winning her first Oscar for Norma Rae. I think what's attractive about Harrison isn't just the obvious, Sally said in retrospect on 1980 Cinema. It's that he never seemed to buy into his own hype. There's something appealing about someone who can be the biggest movie star in the world and still seem like they'd rather be building furniture in their workshop. Though they never collaborated, both actors shared a commitment to authenticity over glamour. Fans can only imagine the chemistry they might have created together. Her emotional transparency playing against his understated intensity. To Sally, Ford represented one of Hollywood's great what-if-say professional admiration tinged with curiosity about what might have been. 4. Tom Selleck, the mustache that launched 1,000 dreams. As the early 1980s cemented Sally Field's status as one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, another star was rising on the small screen. Tom Selleck's portrayal of private investigator Thomas Magnum in Magnum, P.I. made him a cultural phenomenon, and one of the most desirable men in America. That appeal wasn't lost on Sally. With his 6 feet 4 inches frame, signature mustache, and twinkling eyes, Selleck embodied a playful, approachable masculinity. Tom Selleck had this wonderful quality, Sally once said. He could be incredibly handsome and sexy, but there was also something so approachable about him. With his classic movie star looks, Selleck projected an easygoing, down-to-earth charm. Like Field, he never took himself too seriously and wore fame lightly. As their careers ran parallel, Sally winning her second Oscar for Places in the Heart, while Selleck starred in 3 Men and a Baby. Both navigated fame while trying to maintain normalcy. There's something about that era, Sally reflected. We all knew each other, at least peripherally. Someone like Tom would walk into a room, and yes, everybody noticed. How could you not? But then he'd start talking, and you'd realize he was just as grounded as anyone else. Known for his professionalism and amiability, Selleck's off-screen persona mirrored Sally's very own values. Even though they never actually worked together, one can feel from this that there was mutual respect. Two down-to-earth and talented professionals who represented the best of Hollywood's golden age. And Sally, with her discretion very much intact, has listed him in the company of actors whose work she enjoyed during that formative decade of her career. To a generation of viewers, Tom Selleck represented an ideal: handsome but not threatening, masculine but not macho, successful but still relatable. It's no wonder that Sally Field, with her keen eye for authentic talent, would have appreciated those qualities in an era when style often trumped substance. But while Selleck represented television's answer to the classic movie star, our next contender on Sally's list was known for something very different: a reputation as Hollywood's most notorious ladies' man. 3. Warren Beatty, the charismatic heartbreaker. Every list of Hollywood heartthrobs should include Warren Beatty, the actor, director, and producer whose romantic conquests almost eclipsed his movies in fame. For a young actress coming up in the late 1960s and 1970s, Beatty represented the epitome of Hollywood charisma, and Sally Field was no exception to his widespread appeal. Warren had this presence, Sally once recalled during a Hollywood Reporter roundtable. When he walked into a room, the energy changed. Everyone felt it, men and women alike. He had this intense focus when he spoke to you that made you feel like you were the only person who mattered. Though never romantically linked in reality, the idea of Field and Beatty as a potential couple isn't far-fetched. Both rose to fame in roughly the same period, with Beatty already an established major star when Field was making the transition from television to film, which means their paths would have crossed on numerous occasions. And given Beatty's reputation for pursuing talented actresses, it's entirely plausible he would find Sally's combination of talent and girl-next-door charm appealing. What made Beatty particularly fascinating wasn't just his legendary good looks, or even the impressive body of work he had amassed in films like Bonnie and Clyde, Shampoo, and Heaven Can Wait. It was his intelligence and his understanding of Hollywood as both an art form and a business. Beatty wasn't just a pretty face. He was a filmmaker who helped reshape American cinema in the 1970s, a quality that would have resonated with Field's own artistic ambitions. There's something very appealing about someone who knows every kind of thing about the business, Sally said, speaking about actors who went on to become great directors. Warren knew how to tell stories from every angle as an actor, a writer, a director, a producer. That kind of comprehensive vision is rare and frankly sexy. Beatty's reputation as a womanizer was linked to everyone from Natalie Wood to Madonna, before finally settling down with Annette Bening in 1992, also lent his appeal an edge of danger. The challenge of being the woman who finally captured the heart of Hollywood's most notorious bachelor would have been intriguing to many actresses of the era. For Sally, whose public persona was far more wholesome, the contrast between her persona and Beatty's could have created an interesting tension. It's that old attraction of opposites, her authenticity and emotional openness playing against his sophistication and a mystique cultivated with great care. While we can only speculate about any actual interest between them, the fantasy pairing of Field and Beatty represents one fascinating what-if scenario in Hollywood history. Would the grounded nature have anchored his restless spirit? Would his intensity have drawn out even more of her considerable talent? These are questions that remain in the realm of cinematic fantasy, which is where they perhaps ought to stay. But while Warren Beatty represented Hollywood's sophisticated ladies' man, our next contender on Sally's list offered something different, a laid-back charm and artistic credibility that made him one of the most respected actors of his generation. 2. Jeff Bridges, the chemistry that leapt off the screen. Sometimes on-screen chemistry reveals truths that extend beyond the script, and the spark between Sally Field and Jeff Bridges in the 1982 romantic comedy Kiss Me, Goodbye certainly raised eyebrows. In playing a widow whose new relationship is complicated by the ghost of her dead husband, Field shared several intimate scenes with Bridges that showed a natural, easy rapport between the actors. Working with Jeff was like dancing with someone who always knows the next step. Sally says retrospectively about the film, "There's a shorthand that develops a trust. You can try anything because you know they're right there with you, supporting whatever choice you make." The professional admiration was clearly personal. Those who watched Sally during promotional interviews for the film noticed the way her voice takes on warmth when discussing Bridges, the slight flush that would rise when recounting their scenes together. Always professional, always discreet, but they're all the same. What made Bridges particularly appealing was his unique position in Hollywood. Neither a conventional leading man nor a character actor, Jeff carved out his own niche with performances that combined technical skill with natural charisma. From The Last Picture Show to Starman, Bridges brought an authenticity to his roles that matched Field's own approach to acting. Jeff was never afraid to be vulnerable on screen, Sally said in a later interview. "That's rare, especially among men of our generation. He could play strong characters without relying on traditional machismo. There's something very attractive about that kind of security in one's own skin." The timing of their collaboration is significant, too. Kiss Me Goodbye came at a pivotal moment in both their careers. Field fresh off her first Oscar win, Bridges establishing himself as one of Hollywood's most versatile actors. Both were hitting their stride professionally, bringing confidence and maturity to their craft. Off-screen, they shared values, if different personalities. Both led relatively low-profile personal lives by Hollywood standards. Both valued family highly and regarded celebrity with healthy skepticism. Bridges supplied the laid-back California cool to Field's more incandescent, emotionally available Southern warmth. While no romance blossomed in real life, Bridges has been happily married to Susan Jeston since 1977. The professional esteem and personal warmth between them lasted. Reunions at awards ceremonies through the years have been characterized by genuine affection and easy conversation that speaks to a lasting bond. To fans of either actor, their relationship represents one of Hollywood's more intriguing might-have-beens. A pairing that made perfect sense on paper and sizzled on screen, but remained in the professional realm. Their chemistry in Kiss Me Goodbye, while not enough to make the film a major hit, remains a testament to the mysterious alchemy that sometimes occurs between two gifted performers. Of course, while Jeff Bridges represented a perfect professional partnership with undertones of something more, our last contender on Sally's list is a different kind of appeal altogether. The rugged Western icon whose voice alone could make an entire theater swoon. 1. Sam Elliott, the voice, the mustache, the legend. At the top of Sally Field's list of actors she most wanted to date stands a man who represents the quintessence of rugged American masculinity. Sam Elliott. Though they never starred in a film together, the potential pairing of Field's emotional depth and Elliott's stoic strength represents one of Hollywood's great missed opportunities. That voice, Sally is reported to have said during an AFI tribute, shaking her head with a knowing smile, Sam Elliott could read the phone book, and women would line up around the block to listen. Indeed, we know exactly what she means. Elliott's deep, sonorous baritone has become the stuff of Hollywood legend, immediately identifiable whether he's playing a cowboy, a roadhouse bouncer, or himself in a commercial. Along with his signature mustache and craggy good looks, Elliott created an icon that seems to have stepped out of American mythology. What's appealing about the idea of a Field-Elliott pairing is the contrast they represent. Sally's characters often showcase vulnerability, emotional transparency, and a certain wholesome quality, while Elliott's embody restraint, quiet strength, and old-school stoicism. It's the classic yin and yang, the emotional and the reserved, the animated and the still. I've always been drawn to actors who bring something completely different from me to the table, Sally once said. The most interesting combinations come from those contrasts. That's where the sparks happen. Although their paths crossed at various Hollywood functions over the years, timing never aligned for them professionally. Elliott was often typecast in westerns and rugged character roles, while Field pursued more diverse projects that showcased a range. A collaboration between them remains one of cinema's most intriguing what-ifs. What makes such a pairing particularly poignant is that both actors share values worthy of emulation off-screen, despite the converse screen personas they tend to portray. Both have had long marriages. Elliott to actress Katharine Ross since 1984 put family before fame and maintained integrity in their craft. There's something very attractive about someone who's maintained their integrity throughout their career, Sally said, who hasn't chased trends or tried to be something they're not. That authenticity becomes more and more appealing the longer you're in this business. For fans, the fantasy of Sally Field and Sam Elliott together represents perfect balance. Her emotional expressiveness complementing his reserved strength. Her petite stature against his imposing presence. Her quick, lively delivery playing against his measured drawl. It's a pairing that exists only in imagination, but one that perfectly captures the allure of contrasting energies. As Elliott himself might say in that honey over gravel voice, some things just make sense, even if they never actually happened.